The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is back on, only hours after a Hamas attack in Gaza left 2 soldiers dead and 3 others wounded. Air Force strikes that followed the attack have been halted as the political echelon ordered the IDF to stand down and observe the fragile ceasefire. More on this by ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
The Hamas attack was carried out by terror operatives emerging from a tunnel in Rafah. According to an initial IDF probe, a cell emerged and fired RPGs at an excavator, killing 2 troops. Sniper fire then wounded 3 others. Israel quickly responded to the attack, launching a series of airstrikes on Hamas targets across Gaza. Targets included a major Hamas tunnel previously used to hold hostages. Local authorities say at least 45 Palestinians were killed in the strikes. Arab media reported that a strike killed Yahya al-Mabouh, a commander in Hamas's elite Nukba force. But this morning, the IDF issued a statement saying, in accordance with the directives of the political echelon and after a series of significant attacks, the IDF began reinforcing the ceasefire after it was violated by the terrorist organization Hamas. The IDF will continue to enforce the ceasefire agreement and will respond forcefully to any violation of the agreement. The spokesman from the Prime Minister's office said the incident is an example of why Hamas must be disarmed.
We know that Hamas needs to be demilitarized. This is what we continue to say over and over again. This is part of the 20-point plan. Hamas cannot have any part of the future of the Gaza Strip. We must completely get rid of them.
The army announced the identities of the fallen soldiers. They were identified as Major Yaniv Kula, 26, a company commander in the Nachal Brigade's 932nd Battalion, and Staff Sergeant Itai Yavitz, 21, who served in the brigade's Erez program. Both were residents of the central city of Modi'in. These were the first IDF casualties in Gaza since the start of the ceasefire. Prime Minister Netanyahu issued a statement of condolences to the family, saying Yaniv and Itai fought bravely against the Hamas murderers to protect Israel's security. Their courage and heroism will remain forever engraved in our hearts.
Hamas says it has located the remains of an Israeli hostage in Gaza and will return the body when field conditions are suitable. Meanwhile, the loved ones of the fallen whose remains have been returned are being memorialized and laid to rest. More from ILTV's Devo Klein.
Hamas announced that a body of another Israeli hostage was found during ongoing search and rescue operations in Khan Yunis and warned that any escalation could delay the handover. The announcement came hours after an IDF strike in Rafah that followed a Hamas ceasefire violation when terrorists fired an anti-tank missile and opened fire on Israeli troops. The body is presumably one of 28 whose bodies remained in Gaza at the start of the ceasefire. So far, 12 bodies have been returned. The remains of 16 others have yet to be returned. The body of slain hostage Uriel Baruch was laid to rest yesterday in Jerusalem. Baruch, who was murdered during the horrific October 7th attack while fleeing the Supernova Music Festival, left behind a wife and 2 young sons. During the funeral, family members spoke of his light-filled life and the pain of a widowed 31-year-old saying, "You didn't go in vain."
תודה שהילד שלנו דומה לך כל כך ואני מביטה עליך דרכו. והכי תודה שבחרת בי מכולם, מכל הבנות בעולם. תנוח אהוב שלנו, מתישהו ניפגש.
President Isaac Herzog asked the family for forgiveness.
סליחה שלא הגענו עליך באותו יום מר ונמהר. סליחה שלא הצלנו אותך ואת חבריך. סליחה שלקח כל כך הרבה זמן להשיב אותך לנוף מולדתך. אכן, אחיותיי ואחיי, אנחנו חייבים לזכור היטב שמדינה שמבקשת להיות ראויה לבניה ולבנותיה חייבת לדעת גם לבקש סליחה וחייבת גם לדעת לתקן.
And at Ben Gurion Airport, a memorial service was held for slain Nepalese hostage in Israel. Various officials spoke at the service to honor Bipin Joshi, a student who arrived to Israel at the age of 23 to study agriculture. 3 weeks after arriving, he was kidnapped in the Hamas attacks on Israel on October 7th. His body was handed over by Hamas to Israel on Monday and is currently en route to Nepal.
My dear Bipin and his family, I want to say sorry, deeply sorry, about the fact that we didn't succeed to protect you and save your life. But I promise that we will continue to rebuild and develop the land and the area that you love so much.
For the first time, we're hearing the untold stories of the freed hostages, a harrowing look at life in captivity and what it took to stay alive. Their testimonies are shedding new light on the cruelty they faced and the strength it took to endure it. ILTV correspondent India Naftali is here in the studio with me. India, what can you share with us?
Sivan, over the past week, it's been a week since they've been released, a week from today. And what we know about the hostages' harrowing stories in Hamas captivity is really from the families themselves. You know, while they're in the hospitals, they're sharing these stories with their loved ones, and now their loved ones are sharing those stories with us. And I'd like to say before that this is just the tip of the iceberg. We will never truly fully know the stories, the depth of the pain they went through, but this is just a glimpse of what they went through. So Ron Blaslavsky's mother shared with us yesterday that he had been beaten brutally with things, quote, she will not even mention. Nimrod Cohen, he was actually treated worse. He was told, we were told by his brother, because he was a soldier. He was held in a cage for a year and a half, where he was interrogated, blindfolded, and beaten. And this is just the physical side of the torments they went through. The hostages experienced a lot of psychological warfare and trauma. And Matan Anglist, we were told that he was told his grandparents, who were Holocaust survivors, were murdered on October 7th, which we find out was not true. He finds out, and it was a great inspiration for him to come home and see his grandparents alive after he was told that they had been murdered.
Wow.
Avi Natan Or, he was told that his girlfriend Noa Algamani, who was famously rescued in 2024, he was told that she'd already been released in 2023 and that he was there alone. And we know from before that hostages were told that Israel had been destroyed, which obviously no, that is not true. But there were also glimpses of hope for the hostages that we've heard. Baal Kuperstein shared that he heard his mother's voice on the radio on his birthday. And also Alkana Bobots said he got a glimpse of the news, seeing that his family was appealing for his release, unlike what the captors were telling them that their families had forgotten them. So, and also in regards to their health, we are hearing positive updates. The medical teams are saying that they are in stable condition. They have severe but treatable malnutrition. We've heard that Alon Ohel, he is a 24-year-old.
He was injured in his eye.
That's right, Sivan. And the good news is the surgeons say that they will be able to most likely restore a lot of the vision in the one eye. He had shrapnel for 2 years in that one eye, and that is just incredible that he was able to survive so long. Not only that, but great news that it's going to hopefully be restored. But this is, again, just a tip of the iceberg of
These are just bits
been.
and pieces, and there's so many more stories to be told, and I'm sure we will be told in days, months, and years to come, and certainly not all of it. Thank you so much, India Naftali. U.S. President Donald Trump says that despite yesterday's deadly attack by Hamas on Israeli forces and the airstrikes that followed, the ceasefire is still in effect. Speaking to reporters from Air Force One, Trump appeared to take responsibility for the attack from Hamas leadership, claiming they were not involved.
We want to make sure that it's going to be very peaceful with Hamas. And as you know, they've been quite rambunctious. They've been doing some shooting, and we think maybe the leadership isn't involved in that, some rebels within. But either way, it's going to be handled properly. It's going to be handled toughly, but properly.
Is the ceasefire still in place?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance is expected to arrive in Israel tomorrow, Tuesday, amid a fragile Gaza ceasefire and growing calls for regional partners to take a greater role in securing long-term stability. More on his visit from ILTV's Mayan Hoffman.
The visit by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance to Israel comes at a critical juncture, as the U.S.-brokered Gaza ceasefire faces its most serious test yet. On Sunday, Hamas terrorists fired on Israeli troops, killing 2 Israeli soldiers, and prompting retaliatory airstrikes that left more than 24 Palestinians dead. The violence, Vance warned, underscores the fragility of the truce and the urgent need for regional partners to help enforce it.
When we talk about Hamas, you're talking about 40 different cells. It's disjointed. Some of those cells will probably honor the ceasefire. Many of those cells, as we saw some evidence of today, will not. Before we actually can ensure that Hamas is properly disarmed, that's going to require, as we know, some of these Gulf Arab states to get forces in there to actually apply some law and order and some security keeping on the ground.
Vance said the administration has been working closely with Gulf allies to develop what he called a sustainable security infrastructure to disarm Hamas and stabilize Gaza. He emphasized that while the ceasefire may hold in parts of the enclave, disarming Hamas cannot be achieved in just a few days. President Donald Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff and advisor Jared Kushner arrived in the country on Monday and held meetings with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Vance is slated to arrive Tuesday morning. The airport's authorities said traffic to and from Ben Gurion Airport would be disrupted from 10:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Vance made clear that even with American and Gulf engagement, the road ahead will be difficult.
They're going to be, Hamas is going to fire on Israel. Israel's going to have to respond, of course. It's going to have hills and valleys, and we're going to have to monitor the situation.
And joining me now to discuss these current events is retired Colonel Miri Eisen of the International Institution for Counterterrorism at Reichman University. Thank you, Miri, for joining.
Thank you so much, Sivan. Always a pleasure to be here.
Likewise. Let's begin with this fragile ceasefire, or hudna, as someone I interviewed called it. Is it likely, in your opinion, to hold, and what will it take to break it?
It's sustainable, and the sustainability is because both sides are interested in it staying. When I say staying, this is going to be slightly the way that Vice President Vance said. There will constantly be Hamas terrorists. I'm not going to call them militants, and I'm not going to call them fighters. Hamas terrorists of the cells, both of the ones that are with and uphold what Hamas is doing, and those who are against what Hamas is doing. They're going to try to push the Israeli limits so that we're going to constantly be seeing these clashes. But that's not going to stop the overall ceasefire, because there's a strong interest, not just of Israel, but especially both of Hamas and of all of the other players that were mentioned before. Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, the United States, all of them are on board. So it's sustainable, but it's constantly going to be challenged.
Now, the U.S. says that the ceasefire is on, that nothing has changed. Vice President Vance even stressed how complicated the situation is on the ground. But yesterday was a bloody day, and we saw IDF soldiers unfortunately killed and some wounded. How is Israel to protect itself? And also, how should they respond in any case of future violations, in your opinion?
Sivan, I kind of feel like saying to all of us right now, breathe in deep. The war is not over. We're in a ceasefire. This is not about peace. This is not about reconciliation. This isn't in that sense that kind of thing. We're still in the Gaza Strip. We're making sure still with our IDF forces, that's why they are there, both to protect us as the citizens inside Israel itself, to try as much as possible to make life better for all of us in the Middle East. But that friction which comes from Hamas needs to be responded. Hamas is trying out what are the parameters, how much can they do without being in that sense censured. And here I'm going to say, so we're protecting ourselves and our soldiers are there to protect us. While we're in the Gaza Strip, there is always going to be that danger. And I have to be, again, breathing in deep. The danger will continue after. Hamas has not disappeared. And I'm going to say, sadly, it's not that the 2 million people in the Gaza Strip love us tomorrow morning. So we're going to have our challenges cut out. But we are defending ourselves, and that's what we're there for, to defend all of the Israelis, the citizens, non-Israelis, the people who need to be defended.
Now, Hamas, like you said, has not disappeared. It's certainly still in power. We saw Palestinian executions on Gaza streets and them reinstating themselves. And the U.S. made a pact here with Qatar and with other Arab states to ensure the continuation of their plan. Do you think it's possible, or might be a possibility, that Hamas will inevitably be allowed to stay in power?
I don't think they'll be allowed to stay in power. but I absolutely am going to state that they are going to be in the Gaza Strip. They are going to be what I'm going to call a power in the Gaza Strip, because they're not just and only a terror army. They're more than that. And I say it sadly, that ideology that they bring out, the ideology that calls for the annihilation of Israel, amongst other things, is very strong throughout the Gaza Strip, and that's not going to go away. The question is who is going to rule, and I'll phrase it in a different way. To me, the big question is, will Hamas continue to openly bear arms? I am sure that they will try to continue to bear arms clandestinely, hiding it. But I do want to hope that there's going to be somebody else who's going to be the official authority, and that Hamas will not bear open arms and not have open arms and not be able to do so openly, that somebody else will be in charge.
Now, how do you think Hamas can be removed? Does Qatar have an incentive to remove them? Could it be that it's within their best interest to keep them there?
Qatar are not in the Gaza Strip. Qatar would send what we can call money into the Gaza Strip, but they're not physically there. Yeah. The ones that really impact what happens inside the Gaza Strip are only really two parties. Israel, that borders the Gaza Strip, and for all of those around us who forget it all the time, Egypt, that borders the Gaza Strip. You can't get in or out of the Gaza Strip without going through Egypt and Israel. And I would say that those are the two main powers, more than Qatar. Qatar is talking and certainly giving money and doing all sorts of different things, but in actually having an impact on the ground, it has to go through Israel and Egypt, and those are going to be the two main players that are going to impact if and how. And again, I was very careful in what I said. I think it's very hard to disarm Hamas, but I think it is possible to establish a different force that is the authority, and to at least make it very clear that Hamas is a terror army, and if they hold arms, it's not allowed. But I don't see somebody actually going and taking the arms away from them.
Right. Mary Eisen, thank you very much for this input.
Thank you so much.
On October 7, I was here, at the Nova Music Festival. I ran for my life, hid for 7 hours. Terrorists shot me, twice. Thankfully, I survived. I'm still dealing with trauma, and I'm not alone. 3 million Israelis are in trauma. They need mental health care or physical rehabilitation. Wounded soldiers, families, and scared children.
Since 1912, Hadassah has been a life-changing force in Israel. Today, Hadassah has 2 world-renowned hospitals, pioneers breakthrough medical research, cares for youth, and has built the much-needed and largest rehabilitation facility in Jerusalem.
Thank you to everyone at Hadassah Hospitals. You've been helping me, and so many others. And a special thanks to one nurse, my mom. I love you.
The Israeli cabinet has approved Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's proposal to rename the war in Gaza to the War of Redemption, replacing the previous name, Swords of Iron.
Netanyahu said the name reflects Israel's rise from the October 7th disaster and signals the war's nearing an end.
אני מביא היום לאישור הממשלה את ההצעה לקרוא למלחמה בשם רשמי קבוע, מלחמת התקומה. בתום שנתיים של לחימה רצופה, אנחנו זוכרים כיצד התחלנו. קמנו מן האסון הנורא של 7 באוקטובר. קמנו בתנופה על רגלינו, ישבנו מלחמה שער על אויבינו. הסרנו מעלינו את האיום הקיומי של הציר האיראני.
The decision passed overwhelmingly, though Diaspora Affairs Minister Amichai Shikli abstained and Minister Orit Strok voted against, saying it's too early to name the war. Critics, including opposition leader Yair Lapid, accused Netanyahu of trying to evade responsibility for failures leading up to the October 7th Hamas attack. The Prime Minister drew an analogy to the War of Independence.
ביססנו את מפעל התקומה הלאומי בארץ ישראל, במדינתנו החזקה והפורחת. בימי מבצע עם כלבי נגד איראן, הדגשתי את הייעוד הנשגב שנטוע במורשתנו, עם כלבי יקום. כך באשר למערכה כולה, זוהי מלחמת התקומה של עמנו, כהמשך ישיר למלחמת העצמאות. אנו גם עומדים לפני חלוקת עיטורי גבורה וצל"שים לחיילינו ומפקדינו הגיבורים. כפי שהיה במערכות צבאיות קודמות, עיטורי המערכה הנוכחית יישאו את השם הרשמי של מלחמת התקומה. תודה לכם.
The Defense Ministry stressed that any changes to gravestones of the fallen will be coordinated with the bereaved families.
In times of crisis, one Israeli organization is saving lives in a very different way. For decades, Efrat has helped women facing unplanned pregnancies, offering real choices, emotional support, and practical help. Their work has touched tens of thousands of families. Let's take a look.
Efrat was founded by a Holocaust survivor who believed the future of the Jewish people rests in new life. Since then, the organization has helped nearly 90,000 women choose motherhood, ensuring that babies are not only born, but raised in loving homes.
When the war broke out, we felt we had to do something. We bought 10,000 soft shell jackets and we ran to the posts where these soldiers are and we gave them jackets. What was so amazing is when they saw our car, they said, wait a second, you're Efrat with the abortions? We said, yeah. They said, well, I'm alive because of you. Soldier after soldier, we all of a sudden discovered we met our children out there. The idea that we started meeting our children decades later was overwhelming.
Women who call Efrat are often in deep crisis, alone, pressured, and afraid. The first step is listening. Volunteers meet each woman with compassion, practical solutions, and a clear message. She is not alone.
The assistance that Efrat gives to the pregnant women who deliberate with us whether or not to continue the pregnancy is very meaningful for the women. First off, when the baby is born, they get a crib and a stroller, a baby bath, a baby kit with bottles, clothing, diapers, and then 2 years of monthly packages with diapers, wipes, formula when needed, food for the family when needed. And then after that, that's not the end of the help.
That support extends even further, helping mothers with job training, daycare, and the tools they need to become independent. Many, like Hannah, say Efrat changed their lives.
When I reached 26 years old, I got pregnant. It was very difficult for me. I didn't have education. I was living at my mom's house. I didn't know what to do, but the environment was pushing me not to continue the pregnancy. So I called Efrat, and a very nice woman heard my story. And with the help of Efrat, I decided to have my son. Efrat organization helped me when I was in the lowest point in my life. After they helped me, I get back on my feet to become an independent woman.
Her son is now grown, and she volunteers with Efrat to support women facing the same fears she once had. With just a small investment, Efrat can provide hope, strength, and a future for mothers and their children.
My high vision is that no woman would go into abortion without knowing that she has a choice and that she can stop and think about it, and there are organizations and people who want to help her.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Partly cloudy skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 19 degrees Celsius or 66 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see clear skies alongside hot temperatures, seeing highs of 30 degrees Celsius or 87 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels and our new live channel. And you can also catch us on Screen IL with 24/7 live coverage. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Sivan Raviv. Be well, be safe, and thank you very much for watching.